Hello and welcome to Noel's RetroLab. Today I wanted to bring you my first December video, and for that I was already repairing this Amstrad CPC early laptop when disaster struck. I accidentally knocked down the tripod went down, the camera hit the floor, and the lens broke. So I've been without being able to make any progress in that video for a couple of days. So instead today we're going to open up the mail that has been piling up for the last couple of weeks, and that will give me just enough time to finish the December video for the following week, which I think is going to be really interesting, so it's going to be worth it. Let's get started with the mail. So the first package today is coming from the United Kingdom, and it's a pretty unusual shape for what I get. This is typically not a computer. This looks more like a book. So what could it be? This is a pretty big hint right there. So I think this is the second box. I think the main stuff is here. This is the more recognizable box or contents. So this, like I said on the sticker, is an RC 2014. It's an 8-bit computer, but it's not a replica of anything that ever existed. So this was designed from scratch, I'm assuming in the year 2014. And it's designed with several goals in mind. One of them is that it's easy to build. So all the components that we get with this are all through-hole components. So they're very easy to solder. I guess they all connect in this big back plane in here. We have some integrated circuits that come with this, and you see like simple resistors and things like that. And by itself, that's really cool. I mean, I love little project kits like this, but this is particularly extendable. So there are all sorts of add-ons for it. So this is a compact flash storage. There are, I forget what else I got with this. Actually, this is really cool. These are just prototype boards. So one of the things I would love to do is, if I like the system, is to actually design my own extensions. And then you can just plug them in and I don't know, maybe like a video extension. Because one of the things that initially put me off from the RC 2014 is that when I looked at it, it looked really cool. It was a Z80 based computer. It actually was running something like almost 8 megahertz. So it must be a sort of recent Z80. That's right there. And I would have bought it instantly, except that the only kind of video output that it had was a terminal video output. And I mean, that's okay, but it kind of put me off. I love these old computers. One of the things I love is the graphics and manipulating the graphics and how accessible they are. Since then, I've looked into this a little bit more, and there are a couple projects out there that have sort of like a video card, but it could be really fun to design my own. So that might be a future project. I don't know. That's why I got a couple boards, and I don't know what else some of the things are, because for each of the boards, oh, right, this is a Raspberry Zero terminal module. So that's very cool. And then we have sockets and capacitors. So yeah, this is going to take a while to assemble, but it could potentially be really, really fun. And I will definitely make a video about it. Next up, we have a package from Mario Jimenez. And we got a bunch of little components. What's this about? There we go. This is the multiply for the ZX Dandanator. So if you've seen some of my ZX Spectrum repairs, you've seen me use this a lot. This is a Dandanator. It's an extension board. It's mostly like a ROM board that you plug in on the edge connector. And at the very least, I use it to load up the diagnostics ROM. But you can also use it, the primary use really, is to load other images of games or any software really, but already in kind of like a ROM format. So it loads instantly. You have a very simple on-screen menu, you select things, and you can just launch games really, really quickly. Yeah, unlike the Dev ID or other similar ones that go through a lengthy process of initialization, and they show you all the file names, and you pick one, and then it actually takes a while to load. This is like instant loading. So this is a really cool accessory. So the designers of the Dandanator just came up with a companion accessory to the Dandanator, which they call it the Multiply. Maybe that's kind of a pun on div ID, divide. So I don't know, that's probably something along those lines. And the idea, this doesn't replace the Dandanator, it actually connects onto it with this connector, I believe. Let's open it up and see. Oh, I see. So this part just connects directly there. This is a joystick port. And what it sounds like is this probably provides then its own joystick port. And this is how they communicate. But the idea of this is like it's a small accessory that sits to the side. It's just not the most streamlined thing, but I believe that it's worth it. What it does is it provides with SD card access. So the only way you could load images on the Dandanator before was through a somewhat convoluted process. You needed to create the images on a PC of any kind, and then bring it over to Dandanator either through the joystick or loading it as TAP file and then loading it through a div ID. It's a little convoluted, so it really is not something that you wanted to be doing a lot of the time. This offers SD loading, so you can just load, and I'm not sure what the format is, like snapshots or something else. And I believe that it has a super nice on-screen menu that displays all of them. It has long file name format support. It even shows you, I think, the covers of games and potentially screenshots. So it's like in addition to the SD loading, it's like a fancy front end for it. So I'm really looking forward to trying this one. Maybe in one of the episodes, I'll assemble it, I'll try it, and then maybe I'll compare it to some of the other ZX Spectrum loading solutions, like just the Dandanator by itself, but div ID, and I have several other solutions. So that could be an interesting comparison. Next up, we have a package that is coming from Alistair Gillespie or Gillespie, not sure how to pronounce the last name, sorry, Alistair. And this is one that I've been really itching to open. So it was sent a while ago. It's been waiting for a mail day. I see some purple. You're seeing it already, what this is? So these are actually 3D printed gamepads, and interesting, they have slightly different shapes, one bigger, one smaller. So I specifically told Alistair, so Alistair, by the way, you may recognize him more online by his handle Geek, so geek-k, Geek. And he makes these awesome 3D printed cases and a bunch of other things. But he also created the kit for these gamepads. And these are, I suppose they're just general Atari norm gamepads, and they're specifically designed to work on an Amstrad, or that's what I want to use them for, in an Amstrad. So here comes here's the PCB, very, very simple PCB. Oh, there you go, geek.net. That's where it's coming from. So super simple PCB, very nicely rounded corners, very nice mask. And then all the components to go with it, and buttons and everything. So it's super cool. All right, and these, you can also choose to use them as a gamepad by themselves. So yeah, I mean, these you can just play like that if you want to, and then you can also put them inside the larger case and play like that, whatever you're most comfortable with. So that's a really clever design. I hadn't seen the NES style controller rectangle to something more modern gamepad-ish like this. So that in itself is really cool. But why two? So this is what to me takes it over the top. This is a splitter. And I guess this has to be specifically designed for the Amstrad CPC. The idea here is that you connect one joystick there, another joystick there. I mean, it could be these and it could be some other joystick. And then I don't know where it comes from, the other connection. Yeah, where does the other cable come from? Oh, from there. That goes into the Amstrad. And you can play 2 players simultaneously on the Amstrad with joystick or gamepad. So at the beginning, I was shocked to hear that. I did not realize that the Amstrad CPC was prepared to have multiple joysticks. It's a feature that is so unused, or was so unused. I didn't even know about it. I had to go and check the documentation for the joystick port, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. There is a way to toggle the signal from one joystick to the other, and this is what this little device does in here. So my goal is to assemble this and try some multiplayer games with my daughter. So that could be really fun to do. So thanks so much, Alistair. I love this. I definitely want to assemble it. And who knows, maybe one day when I write my own game, it could very likely be a multiplayer, simultaneous multiplayer game. That's something that would be very interesting. With the excitement of the gamepads, I totally missed this. So this is something that Alistair and I had talked about a while back. And these, let's see, can I zoom in with this? So this weird device with that weird shape and that thing in there, this is a button for the reset of the Amstrad CPC 464 tape. And the reason he sent me these is they tend to break a lot. It's one of the first pieces that breaks off in an Amstrad CPC. It's not a big deal, but I hate to leave them without their little reset button. And it's a particularly difficult piece to print because it's very thin right there, and actually there's a fair amount of force that goes through it. So he printed these with really high quality or high density printing. So I'm hoping these are good and I can use them as replacement. So again, thank you very much. So next up we have the OwlBot by Elegoo. So this is something that they sent me for free to try out with my daughter. So I'm not going to open it right now. I'll save it and do a whole video about it, but my daughter and I are going to get together and actually build this and put it through its paces and see what she thinks about it. And it's aimed at children at over 8 years of age, and she's 9. She's even had a little bit of experience with electronics and with some robot-like things. So I'm very curious what she thinks about this, and she's been dying to get to this. So hopefully maybe next weekend we'll record this, and we should have the video coming out soon. And finally, I know this is not a proper unboxing because it's already unboxed, but I just got this in the mail a few days ago and I thought it was so cool, I just had to share it. This is, you probably recognize it, a Sinclair QL. There you go, a little QL right there. And yes, I just recently covered this, so I do already have one of these, but I had a bare bones Sinclair QL with a couple of micro drives, a power supply, and a cable, and that was it. And then I had the opportunity to buy this one, and I thought it was a fantastic bundle, and I went ahead and get it. So not only is just everything that you're seeing, but the QL itself is highly upgraded. There's a bunch of very interesting upgrades. You can even see over here the disk controller, but I'm going to cover those in a separate video. But I realized that I wasn't going to be covering all the other cool stuff that it came with it. So I want to do that right now because there's some really, really interesting things. So for example, just looking at the user manual, the user guide that they call it, it's amazing. So it comes in a binder, and this thing is really heavy. And there's just so much stuff in here. And obviously, I guess somebody was writing some notes to themselves, but there's just all these topics. The fact that it's in a binder is great for laying flat while you're experimenting on the computer. So that's something I really always appreciate. So it looks like it goes through all the super basic keywords, and it covers some of the other programs that it comes with. Quill, which is the word processor, Abacus Archive. So I mean, it's really, really cool. I love having these original documents like that, and I was just blown away by the just the depth and I mean, even though the ring binder doesn't look like it's high production value, it's actually really good. The paper itself is kind of glossy, so it's super nice. This is also something else this bundle came with, which is really cool. It's just a promotional material that I think they had at launch, but to me this was particularly awesome because I spent quite a while when I was making some of those QL videos looking through scans of this and using some of that information, and so just seeing the real one printed out like this is just super cool. Again, they just went full out. It just makes it super nice looking, probably better looking than it really is to a certain extent, showing you the awesome included software. So it's just very cool. It even has those little protective pages, I guess. Oh, and I didn't realize, order form. How about that? This is the real order form to order a Sinclair QL. How cool. So the bundle also came with the 4 programs that were included in the QL launch: Quill, Abacus, Archive, and Easel. And it's nice little clamshell. And then inside you have the 4 cartridges themselves. And maybe they look like they're copies, but whatever, that's just really cool. They may not even be working anymore, depending on how reliable those are. So it came with that. It came with QL Chess, which actually this one comes with some instruction manual, so that's pretty cool. And again, 1 micro drive cartridge. Also came with a few other ones, but the one that really blew me away was this one, QL Paint. The production values on this one are just amazing. So you look at it and like, okay, it's kind of a box. Well, so that's a sleeve. Let's see if we can do it one-handed. And what do we have inside the sleeve? Oh, we have 2 little clamshell things like those inside another sleeve. This is a hard sleeve. So we can take those out. And why do we have 2? So in this one, it's just like in the other case, we have some micro drives. I don't know why we need 3 of them. Maybe QL Paint really took 3 micro drives. But then this one that looks like it has more micro drives, it's actually the user manual, which is just really cool in this like tiny little format. So I don't know, I just find it super cool that the packaging and presentation of this is not the most comfortable thing because this doesn't lay open. You would have to hold it with something, but still, it's just very clever idea. And certainly there's a lot of information here. This is not like QL Chess that only had 1 sheet. This is, this is a significant manual. So that is very cool. So next we have some 3.5 floppy disks that I assume they all had just copies of something, but some of them, these 3, look like they're original of some independent games, I'm imagining. So this is RWrap software. They are still making membranes for the QL and things like that. And not only do we get those disks, but we get the, I guess, manual or the instructions that came with at the time. Now, I don't know when these were released. It's something that I'll have to check. So I don't know if they were like something that was done relatively recent. I don't see any copyrights. Or, I mean, it talks about websites. So obviously this was not made in the 80s. So I suspect that these are sort of homebrew releases in the last, 20 years at least. And I'm actually very curious about Sinclair QL, not software, but just games in particular, something that we haven't talked about at all. I haven't really looked to see what its true capabilities are when it comes down to games. So I'm very curious to explore those, explore maybe some of the best ones that are available. And it could even be one of the targets that I pick at some point to develop my own games. I don't know. So we'll see about that. And then the rest of the things are, the assembler, very cool, things like that. And this makes sense because it comes with a floppy disk drive controller. So we could connect a 3-inch floppy disk drive and then access it from the QL. So we'll definitely be covering this at some point when I cover all the upgrades to the QL. We'll see exactly how the disk controller works. And then finally, they even included the documentation for Hermes, which is exactly what it says there. It's a coprocessor. So if you remember from the QL episode, the QL has a main microprocessor and like the 68008, but then it also has a full other microprocessor that is only used for I/O. And the Hermes is intended to replace that. And this particular QL already comes with that processor replaced. So we'll talk about the details, but I think it's just really cool that, again, the previous owner saved all this information and all the documentation. And there we go. This has a disk, maybe with some software that takes advantage of the new capabilities, and then explaining why you want it and what the problems are with the old microprocessor, and going in all sort of detail and stuff. So this is a super cool bundle for someone like me. I love this kind of stuff, so I was thrilled to get something like this. So I know it wasn't a true unboxing, but I hope you still enjoyed having a look at this before we looked at the details of the QL in a future episode. And that's it for the look at this week's mail. We have, again, lots of super interesting projects, and we get to have a peek at this really cool Sinclair QL bundle that just arrived. So I hope you enjoyed that bit as well. Anyway, if you liked the episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until next video, see you then. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting Noel's Retro Lab on Patreon or joining the membership on YouTube. Not only is that the best way to support this channel and allow me to continue making more videos, but you also get some extra perks like early access, ad-free videos, and more. Thank you again to all the supporters. See you next time.